then after the consent agenda, that's when we'll take rules. After consent agenda, we're going to take item number 2 out of order so that the young people don't have to stick around with us. Okay? Yep. I knew it was so tight today. Can we do it next Monday? Would that work? They're here tonight? Okay. Absolutely. So let's get with her, because I already told her, let's get with her on Monday. We're going to call Akron City Council meeting to order. Clerk will read the roll.
There we go. Freeman. Fusco. Hoke. Kamer. Keith. Kilby. Milkovich. Mosley Sample. Neal. Amobian. Sims. Somerville.
Here.
Swirsky.
For those who voluntarily wish to do so, would you please stand as we are led in prayer by April Held from the National Day of Prayer. We will then be followed by a second prayer. We actually have the Northern Cheyenne traditional leader who is here. His Cheyenne name is Walks in the Mountain. He's also going to grace us with a prayer on this evening too. And after that, we will be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance led by Councilwoman Amobian.
Thank you. Let's bow our heads. We thank you, Heavenly Father. As I look about this room, I see your beautiful creation. I thank you, Lord God, that we are all your children. And as we read in Luke 11, we know that a house divided against itself cannot stand. And so we humbly come before you, asking your forgiveness, forgiving one another, and asking each other's forgiveness, so that we may truly be one and be united. We thank you, Father, for this city council. We thank you for each member who has stepped forward and said, I'm willing to serve. I'm willing to serve our community. And we pray, Father God, if there have been times when pride has gotten in the way, or anything else that takes away from our servanthood, we ask your forgiveness. And we look to you for your leadership, because we know that we do have someone that we are accountable to. We thank you for this day, and we thank you for this time, and we pray that you'd lead us forward. Amen.
I'm going to say my prayer in my language, Cheyenne language. I'd like you to all join and ask for good things for everybody here, our families, and our future. Mahadana Mahaya Nida Zinehoet Nida Zikomashamana Nanatos Zikoto Natawanon Heva do say estes. Hewa na me no sinan hewa hoko hoan ze sto. Me no honia hewa tse zimha wo stan heves. Kama wo stan. Esto hem no es yo men no zum khwa tamonia. Ze ya ses. Pawe ho mania. Pawe mo matanania. Na wo stanan. Hewa tse meha wo stan heves. Nda ne ni shu sto hem hewa. No go on so to da honas. Hewa tse ko. Palm on and hewa. Nurse Thompsonist. Hewa tse sa man se hewa. Hene no one on hewa. Hena hane pawe de dokumonia hewa. Mahakse nam shimania hewa. Pewatstum hewa. He do se hewa pawe me no hatsmano. Hewa tse ko. Hena hane ne akshiman. Thank you.
Thank you so much, April Held and Walks in the Mountain, for those beautiful prayers. Clerk will read the minutes from the previously held meeting.
Minutes from January 8th, 2018. Council convened in regular session at 7 p.m. with President Somerville in the chair. All members were present. Minutes of the previous regular meeting were approved. Neil abstained. Reading of petitions and communications. Passage of the consent agenda. Report of standing and special committees. Passage and referral of new ordinances and resolution. Representation from various departments and divisions. Public speaking period. No further business on a motion by Fusco. Council adjourned at 7:42 p.m. to reconvene in regular session on January 22nd, 2018, or special call.
Any corrections or additions?
Motion to approve.
All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. The ayes have it. Letters, petitions, and communications.
I put a copy on there because of the holiday. I put a copy of this on everybody's desk. Planning, petition of First Energy for a conditional use to construct the Center for Advanced Energy Technology at 855 Mull Avenue.
Attention planning.
Petition of DRK Partners LLC for a conditional use to construct an office facility at 539 White Pond Drive.
Attention planning.
Petition of Galenas Wellness LLC for a conditional use to build a medical marijuana dispensary at 1912 Buchholzer Boulevard.
Attention planning.
Petition of Galenas LLC for a conditional use to establish a medical marijuana processing at 1956 South Main.
Attention planning.
Petition of Cargill Incorporated for a conditional use to install 2 brine wells on city-owned property west of Manchester Road and south of the Tuscarawas River.
Attention planning.
Construction notice from First Energy in reference to case number 172473 ELBNR.
File.
Investment earnings reports for the November 2017.
File.
Investment earnings report for December 2017.
File.
Income tax receipt through the end of December 2017.
File.
Notice of transfer of a D1, D2, D3, D3A, and D6 liquor permit to Kimkin Corp. doing business as Nickleby's Lounge, 1947 West Market Street.
Special attention, Councilwoman Keith.
Notice of a new D5 liquor permit to Randall K. Carper doing business as Katie's Lounge, 1881 East Market Street.
Special attention, Councilman Milkovich.
Notice of a new D2 liquor permit to the Blue Note Lounge LLC, doing business as the Blue Note Lounge, 1474 Copley Road.
Special attention, Councilman Neal.
Notice of a new D5J liquor permit to Whole New Ball Game Restaurant LLC, 300 South Main Street.
Special attention, Councilwoman Somerville.
Petition submitted by Kenneth Savitas requesting trees in the Devil Strip to be removed on Ralston Avenue.
Special attention, Councilman Kamer.
That's it.
We have before us the consent agenda. Councilwoman Sims.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I request the removal of item number 7 on the consent agenda. We have a substitute amendment.
We are pulling item number 7 from the consent agenda.
Okay.
Is there a motion? Is there a second? All in favor signify by saying aye. The ayes have it.
Okay. Okay. Got it right here.
And what we're going to do right now, we actually have some special guests with us. Some students from Lippman School are here. So we're going to just ask, and we can have a motion to take things out of order so that we can deal with their resolution first, so that they won't have to stay around for the whole meeting. Is there a motion?
Motion to adjust the agenda to reflect.
Very good. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. The ayes have it.
Okay. Offered by the Rules Committee, Mayor Horrigan, Councilpersons Keith, Somerville, Fusco, Neal, Amobian, Swirsky, and Samples. It's a resolution recognizing and honoring the history and the culture of Native Americans and the contributions by tribal nations to the development of the American continent, and acknowledging the efforts to preserve this history in our country, in Akron, Ohio, Summit County, and Ohio by the establishing First Peoples Day on the first Monday of October and declaring an emergency.
Councilwoman Keith?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Mr. Clerk, for reading that in. The committee has chosen to take time on this. That is not bad. It's just called a reflection. But we have a number of guests that are here this evening that actually, a couple of them have flown across states to be in here tonight, so we want to make sure that we give them their due, along with all of the students that did some work. So I believe that this evening, the principal, Sam Chestnut, will open up and give us a little description of this resolution.
I just want to thank the council members, President Somerville, the mayor's office, for giving us the time to share this concept with you, which we hope will become a resolution that is passed soon by this council. I'm Sam Chestnut. I'm head of the Lippman School. We've been in the city of Akron for over 50 years as the only place to receive a Jewish education, but the school has become much more diverse than that. In fact, we're only about 50% Jewish, because one of the key values of the school that these students learn about, and they'll tell you about why this resolution is important to us, but it speaks to our values as a school, is that as a minority group in America, Jewish people recognize that not only do we have to fight for our own rights to be heard, we have to fight for those others who sometimes have voices that aren't heard as loud. And it is in the spirit of this, and in a 7-year partnership with the Northern Cheyenne Tribe in Montana, that we have shone a light on the Portage Path, the history of Native people in this area, with the help of Summit County Historical Society, which has been carrying this flag for many years. We think it's time that Akron recognize these people and this place and the history in our town with the First Peoples Day. So that's the spirit of the resolution. I thank you for this. The kids will really explain some of the thinking behind this. They've gone through a wonderful process. Many of them spoke at the Rules Committee. Thank you for that. 3 of them will speak here. And Otto Braided Hair, who gave the prayer, will speak on behalf of the partnership from the Northern Cheyenne Nation. So without further ado, I'll introduce our first student, Cale Stevens.
Good evening. My name is Cale. First Peoples Day will bring self-confidence to us and pride of our heritage so that we don't forget about Native American history and culture. We should always remember our own heritage. Native Americans are a big part of our culture because they give us confidence to fight and not give up. The Native Americans have kept their heritage for so many years, and it shows that people should keep their heritage forever because it is such a big part of who we are. Historically, they were mistreated by the government, and we need to remember this because we don't need events like this to happen again. We don't need people around the world killing people for no reason. We don't want kids learning to be mean to other people just because of their race. Native Americans have been hardworking, tax-paying, law-abiding, and war-fighting Americans, just like everyone else. They deserve credit as citizens like everyone else in America. Everyone deserves credit for the contributions they have made or receive justice for injustice done to them. So this day is for the Native Americans. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Jude Yovachin, and I am an 8th grader at the Lippman School. The very first people to occupy the Ohio area were the Paleo Indians. They had homes here as early as 12,500 BCE. The next people were the Archaic Indians, and following them came the Adena, Hopewell, and Fort tribes. The last ancient peoples to settle Ohio were the Whitley Focus Group, who were precursors to the Erie culture. The Mingos and the Delaware were the two tribes that lived in the Akron area after the arrival of European immigrants and the disappearance of ancient peoples. By 1800, the Mingos lived with the Miami and the Shawnee in the Sandusky River area in northwest Ohio, but they were removed from Ohio with the 1830 Indian Removal Act. The influx of American settlers into Ohio with the passing of the Land Ordinance Act, and the Northwest Ordinance sparked raids and violence by both sides. And the new American government worked to remove all Native Americans from Ohio. In 1794, Chief Little Turtle of the Miami tribe was defeated, and in 1795, the Treaty of Greenville pushed Ohio's tribes into a sectioned off part of northwest Ohio. The Treaty of Greenville opened up Ohio for American settlement, and the western reserve east of the Cuyahoga River filled quickly. From 1805 to 1812, the Shawnee brothers, Tecumseh and Tenskwatawa, had reunited the Ohio Confederacy of Tribes. In 1811, at the Battle of Tippecanoe, Tenskwatawa decided to fight against William Henry Harrison and lost. This defeat convinced Tecumseh the Native Alliance couldn't succeed, and he sought monetary and military aid from the British on the Great Lakes. In the War of 1812, the Battle of Thames removed the Indian nations from Ohio and defeated the Ohio Confederacy when Tecumseh died in battle. Although no longer a part of Ohio culture as formal tribal nations since 1812, Native Americans have been on North American land much longer than non-natives, and their contributions to our history should be celebrated. Thank you.
Good evening. I am Hema Bagley, and I'm an 8th grader at the Lippman School. We all know that Native Americans have been here a long time. We know they were here first, that they were here before European arrival. But how many people actually know how long they were here? Why don't we learn these things at school? Are they not a big part of our history? We should make this as important as the rest of our history. Students should have the luxury of learning about their heritage, about the people who were here first. What better way to teach and celebrate than an officially recognized day of honor? My school, the Lippman School, believes that learning about our Native people and history is important, and I'm glad they do. My teachers think it's so important that we should learn about our Native people through personal experience by meeting the people of the tribe in person. They think it is important to make a connection with them. We learn with them every year, and each of us learns more every time. Then, we thought it was so great that we wanted to share it with others by walking the Portage Path. We went so far as to make an app about the Portage Path so that not just our school community can learn about our Native people and history, but that the Akron community and beyond can learn as well. Our school is not the only one to think that our heritage is important. First People are celebrated internationally. The United Nations finds their history very important. We should make it a holiday. We should be one of the few to lead by example. I am forever grateful that I learned about my heritage. I believe others should have the luxury about learning about their heritage as well. My fellow students and I speak for those who did not get the chance to learn about our Native peoples. We speak for those who are working hard to educate as many people about our Native peoples. We speak for the Native people themselves. We speak for all of these people when we ask you to please consider making First Peoples Day a holiday in Akron, Ohio. Thank you for your time.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the Akron City Council. I'm very honored to be here before you in support of the Portage Path resolution. Centuries ago, my ancestors, the Sutta, were in this region, in this area, mainly the Great Lakes. And to this day, we still have a very, very precious connection to the Great Lakes. When we pray, when we meditate, we often think about the Great Lakes. Over the last 7 years, we've partnered with the Lippman School. I've been the cultural advisor, representing the Northern Cheyenne tribe in a cultural exchange. Since my first visit here, I've always wanted greater visibility of the tribes that were in existence in this area, a greater visibility. Our awareness efforts on the Portage Path, very gratifying. It is likely that the moccasins of my ancestors was on that path. And I'm humbled to bring Portage Path back into the consciousness of the people, today's people, and especially the community of Akron. On behalf of the Cheyenne, all my past relatives, present and future, and especially for those that walk the Portage Path, use the Portage Path, I greatly appreciate your support for the Portage Path resolution. At this time, I'd like to introduce Seneca relative, Jay Toth. Say a few words. Thank you.
Go ahead. Or right there.
Yahweh for inviting me here today. That great path that my brother here talks about, the Seneca people, ancestors made that path. And you young people honor those ancestors by doing what you did today with this initiative. Many cities come to us now asking for help in economic development. But I want to remind you that Seneca Nation is still here, only a couple hours away. There's lots of native sites here. And what these people have done is a small step in hopefully rebuilding these relationships that long past gone. We can start again. But as these young people, I ask that you honor them by passing their initiative. But I also want to remind you and young people that there's a much more to do. In the city of Akron, I'm going to remind you that there are no laws that protect native sacred sites. City of Akron, there is no laws to protect native burial sites. Second Nation is making an initiative to do that in the state of Ohio. You young people, you'll probably fall on your shoulders to carry those things through. I'm becoming an old man. I don't have the energy I used to. But as we build these economic bridges between the native Second Nation and Akron and many of the other cities, remember there's still a lot that we need to do together. And again, I appreciate, Yahweh, thank you for offering to have me come up here and speak. It's a great honor. And again, I ask that you pass the Young People's Initiative. Yahweh.
At this time, I would like to sing a prayer song in honor of all the Lippman School students and the supporters of a Portage Path resolution and for the City Council. Shaman, thank you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Keefe, what is the committee's pleasure?
Thank you, Madam President. The committee would like to take time on this resolution.
Okay, thank you. Can we actually have all of the students from Lippman, if you'll just please stand? And if we can give them a round of applause. I just want to take a moment just to commend each and every one of you on doing such a great job. You have come today, you have presented so well, you have spoke so eloquently and so passionately, and so I'm just really proud because I'm looking out at really our future leaders of the city. So we just want you to know that although this committee is taking time, that's the same time that you took to put into putting this piece together. We're just going to take time to review it. We are so proud of all the hard work that you put in, okay? And actually, do we have any parents that are here supporting the students as well? If we do, okay, stand. And so we want to thank, of course, Mr. Chestnut. We want to thank Mr. Dave Liebreth for all of your help and all the teachers that helped to make this day possible. So thank you so much. And students and parents, at this time, you can be dismissed if you like.
Nice, Bob. I don't know where it's coming from. It's probably that camera person.
Maybe it's that mic. Maybe it's the mic. Still on.
It could be.
Tell them.
All right, we are going to move on to our old business and rules. Councilwoman Keith?
Thank you, Madam President. We would like to take time.
Okay, time will be granted. We do have 3 public hearings on this evening. So I'm going to ask if there is anyone here in the audience that is here to speak at the public hearing. The public hearing not to be confused with the public comment period. But if you are here to speak on 1009 Copley Road or 769 Cordova or the 2018 Capital Investment and Community Development Program, I'm going to ask that you'll please stand at this time so that you can be sworn in by our law department. Is there anyone here to speak? All right, very good.
Okay, if you would please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? If you do, say I do. Thank you.
Okay. First public hearing, legal notice. Notice is given that a public hearing will be held by the Council of the City of Akron on Monday, January 22nd, during a regular council meeting at 7 p.m. in council chambers, 166 South High Street, upon an ordinance authorizing conditional use to establish a mental health rehabilitation center at 1009 Copley Road.
Mr. Antonucci?
Thank you, Madam President, members of council. Dorothy Johnson and Bernadine Swain, doing business as START, requesting permission to establish a mental health rehabilitation center at this location. Petitioners are proposing to use the vacant 2-story colonial dwelling for classrooms and training rooms. Services offered for an average of 16 clients will include life skills, employment readiness, basic computer training, wellness and recovery services, and music and art therapy classes. There'll be approximately 2 to 4 volunteer staff members, including a licensed social worker. It's anticipated the building will be open from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. The property contains an attached 2-car garage along Peerless Avenue. No changes to the exterior of the building are proposed. It's anticipated the majority of the clients will either walk to the site or utilize public or private transportation. Such the amount of off-street parking provided would be sufficient. The proposed use as a mental health rehabilitation center will repurpose this vacant residence on this main arterial street by offering much-needed services to the area residents. Both Planning Commission and Planning staff recommend approval, subject to conditions.
Is there anyone here to speak in favor of this ordinance? You can please approach the podium.
Good evening. My name again is Dorothy Johnson, and I am the director of the START program. And START stands for Social, Therapeutic, Advocacy, Recovery, Training. And we are a program that we want to help with the life skills, basic computer training, just everyday living needs that they need to live into the community. And this is my desire. This is my passion. I've worked with this population of people for quite some time, since 2002. And I could see the need for them to have somewhere to go and something to do. And it's very, very well needed. So that's why I'm here, to see if I could get the support from the committee and the people in the community for us to help get this program off the ground and started. And again, what we do is we are seeking to elevate and improve the independence of those suffering from mental illness in the community. We're driven by the desire to integrate clients back into the community and reduce the stigmas associated with mental illness. START's mission is to uplift, support, and advocate for the underserved mental health population. So if I could get your support, truly I would appreciate it.
Thank you. Is there anyone else speaking in favor?
Good evening, council members and everyone else. My name is Linda Slack. I'm here in support of the START program, Ms. Johnson and my brother Fred. I believe in what they're doing because I've seen evidence of it. And no one can be left out of the community. We have people that need our help. And in that particular area, I don't think there is a residential treatment program where people can just walk or catch the bus there. We have other people with support services, but I don't think they're addressing the needs of that population. I'm a community organizer. I've worked in the community since I was 14. And I think that this is a great asset to that particular zip code and 07 because it's part of the Bookville cluster. We need this, and I hope that the council sees fit to support this.
Thank you. Is anyone else to speak in favor?
I'm Chris Smith. I'm one of Miss Dorothy's residents. I'm a DD, and I don't really have much to do most of the time, but ever since I started helping her out with building and stuff at her place, it's actually given me some more time to actually get to know more stuff and help out. It's actually a pretty good place to do. But yeah, I think it's a good option to have out there. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else to speak in favor? Okay. Is there anyone to speak against? Is there anyone in the audience to speak against? If not, we'll close the public hearing. Councilman Fusco?
Yes, I'd like to pull the committee for a favorable report with suspension of the rules. Mobian? Kamer? Neal?
Aye.
Saworski? The report of the committee is favorable. We ask for suspension of the rules.
Okay, the committee's report is favorable. The rules have already been suspended. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any objections? No. The ayes have it.
Roll call and final passage. Freeman. Fusco. Hope. Kamer. Keith. Kilby. Milkovich. Mosley Sample. Neal. Amobian. Sims. Somerville.
Aye.
Swirsky. Public hearing number 2. Notice is hereby given that a public hearing will be held by the Council of the City of Akron January 22nd during the regular council meeting at 7 p.m. in council chambers, 166 South High Street, upon an ordinance authorizing conditional use to vary the side yard setback to construct a garage addition at 769 Cordova Avenue.
Mr. Antonucci?
Thank you, Madam President, members of council. John McClendon is seeking permission to construct a 2-story attached garage addition along the north side of the house to within 5 feet of the side property line. The proposed 2-story addition would measure 20 feet in width by 24 feet in length, connecting to the north side of the house. The second story of the garage would be connected to the house and used for an additional bedroom with windows on the north and west elevations. The proposed addition of the house is a logical solution to provide additional living space for the petitioners, as well as sheltered parking for their vehicles. The proposed addition would add value to the well-maintained property and would not have any adverse effects on surrounding uses. Both Planning Commission and Planning staff recommend approval, subject to the condition.
Very good. Is there anyone here in the audience tonight that is here to speak in favor of this ordinance? Anyone here to speak in favor? Is there anyone here to speak against? Is there anyone here to speak against? Seeing and hearing not, we'll close the public hearing. Councilman Fusco?
I'd like to pull the committee for a favorable report with suspension of the rules. Mobian? Kamer? Neal?
Aye.
Swirsky? Report of the committee is favorable. We ask for suspension of the rules.
Okay. Are there any objections to suspension of the rules? Okay. If not, the rules have been suspended. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it.
Okay, roll call and final passage. Freeman. Aye. Fusco. Aye. Hoke. Aye. Kamer. Aye. Keith. Aye. Kilby. Aye. Milkovich. Aye. Mosley Samples. Aye. Neal. Aye. Amobian. Aye. Sims. Aye. Somerville.
Aye.
Swirsky. Okay. Public hearing number 3. Notice hereby given, a public hearing will be held by the Council of the City of Akron Monday, January 22nd, during the regular council meeting at 7 p.m., council chambers, 166 South High Street, upon an ordinance accepting the 2018 Capital Investment and Community Development Program.
Mrs. Tomic?
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of council. The city administration annually prepares a capital investment and community program for city council consideration. The capital investment budget specifies the types, locations, costs, and general descriptions of capital improvements that are planned and proposed for implementation throughout the upcoming year. The capital investment program includes street and sidewalk improvements, improvements to parks, purchase of vehicles for police, fire, public services, the purchase of a ladder truck for the fire department, to begin construction of Fire Station Number 2, debt service on previously financed capital projects, and water and sewers upgrades. The objectives of the capital budget include to construct or rehabilitate facilities that are vital to the City of Akron residents, to reduce long-term operating costs, to encourage private investment throughout the city, to leverage local, state, federal, and private funds whenever possible, and to provide capital improvements to support the long-term growth of the city land use and development guide plan. The proposed 2018 capital budget is approximately $329 million. Funding sources include $108 million from local government funds, $8.7 from regional resources, $178 million from the state of Ohio, $28.2 million from the federal government, and approximately $6.1 million from private sources. The planning staff conducted a detailed review of the budget this afternoon at 4 o'clock that covered transportation, parks and recreation, public facilities, housing and community development, economic and miscellaneous budgets. Next Monday on January 29th at 4 o'clock, we will again convene with City Council and review the water and sewer portions of the capital budget. Thank you.
Is there anyone here in the audience to speak in favor of this ordinance? Anyone here to speak in favor? Is there anyone here to speak against? Anyone here to speak against? If not, we'll close the public hearing. Councilman Fusco?
I'd like to pull a committee to refer this item. Mobian, Kamer, Neal, Swirsky.
Okay, this item will be referred.
Yeah, just as, if I could, just as Ms. Tomek had mentioned, we will be reviewing the capital budget, the sewer and water portions, next Monday at 4 o'clock. And after that, we're hoping, I believe, February 5th. Hopefully, we could pass it at that time. Thank you.
And Councilman Fusco, what's your pleasure on the rest of the old agenda?
Time on the balance of the agenda. Thanks.
Public Utilities, Councilwoman Samples.
Thank you, Madam Chair. On item 1, the committee's report is favorable, and we're asking for passage. That's resolution 1, right? Expressing council support for integrated planning.
Yeah, do you want to go ahead and ask for suspension of the...
Yes, please.
So, seeing, the committee is asking for suspension of the rules. Are there any objections? Okay, so seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended. Councilwoman Samples, do you have anything else you want to comment on this?
No, I would refer to my colleague, Councilman Neal. It's his resolution.
Councilman Neal?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This has been a part of our long discussion on trying to find ways to assist our residents. This resolution actually complements what the administration and what council has been doing over the years. It supports a national effort that we have joined with our colleagues across the nation, asking the government to consider social economic indicators and not just median income when it comes to giving us the ability to determine our water bills. So with that, we ask for its passage.
Very good. So the rules have been suspended. The committee's report is favorable. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And we have some abstentions.
Okay. Hold on. I'll do it during a roll call. Okay. Roll call and final passage. Freeman. Pardon me? Aye. Fusco? Kamer? Okay. Keith? Aye. Kilby? Aye. Milkovich? Aye. Mosley Sample?
Aye.
Neal? Aye. Amobian? Aye. Sims? Aye. Somerville?
Aye.
Swirsky?
Aye.
Mr. Hope?
I got skipped.
I'm sorry.
Abstain.
Okay. Okay.
Got it?
Yeah.
Okay.
It passes. 11 to 2.
Okay.
2 abstentions.
Councilman Samples, on item number 2?
Yes, Madam Chair. The committee's report is favorable, and we're asking for suspension of the rules.
Okay. Are there any objections? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended. Councilwoman Samples, do you have any other further comments?
No, I don't.
Okay. The rules have been suspended. The committee's report is favorable. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? And we have some abstentions.
Okay. Freeman. Fusco. Yes. Hoke.
Abstain.
Okay. Kamer. Okay. Keith. Kilby. Aye. Milkovich. Aye. Moses Sample. Aye. Deal. Aye. Mobian. Aye. Sims. Aye. Somerville.
Aye.
Swirsky. Okay. The resolution passes 10 with 3 abstentions. Okay.
We will now move into our new legislation.
roll call, I think there were 2 abstentions and 1 no, not 3 abstentions.
Who said no?
I think Councilman Kamer said no.
I'm sorry.
Thank you, Councilwoman Sims.
Okay.
Moving on to the new agenda rules.
All right. Item number 1, offered by Key, resolution approving and confirming the reappointment of Stephen A. Stock to the Akron Civil Service Commission and declaring an emergency.
Councilwoman Keith?
Thank you, Madam President. We'd like this to be put on the consent agenda.
Okay, this will be placed on the consent agenda.
Okay. Let's see. Item number 2 has already been dealt with. Move on to number 3. Resolution offered by Fusco approving the renewal application of George and Julia Reese to have an agricultural property on Cortland Avenue to be included in the agricultural district pursuant to the revised code section 929.01, declaring an emergency.
Councilman Fusco?
For?
This item will be referred.
Item number 4 offered by Fusco, resolution approving the renewal application of Bessemer Farms Limited and Bessemer Farms Limited 2 and Ann J. Bessemer Trust to have an agricultural property on St. Michael's, Cortland and Nye Street to be included in the agricultural district pursuant to the revised code 929.01 and declare an emergency.
Councilman Fusco?
For?
This item will be referred.
Item number 5, resolution approving the renewal application of Donald E. and Carol Bessemer to have an agricultural property on St. Michael's Avenue to be included in the agricultural district pursuant to the revised code 929.01 and declare an emergency.
Councilman Fusco?
For?
This item will be referred.
Item number 6, offered by Fusco, resolution declaring the necessity and intent of the City of Akron to appropriate fee simple interest in real property owned by Tamara Peasley, a.k.a. Tamara Gaffney, located at 339 Chittenden Street, for the purpose of constructing, maintaining, repairing, enlarging, and reconstructing a sewer or sewers and water lines for drainage, sewerage, and water line purposes in connection with the CSO RAC 3 Kelly Green project and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Fusco?
Consent agenda.
This item will be placed on the consent agenda.
Item number 7, offered by Fusco. Ordinance approving the sale of vacant city-owned properties pursuant to the city's A Lot for a Little program in order to facilitate the productive reuse of property and reducing the cost to the city and the taxpayers in maintaining vacant lots, determining said property is not needed for public use and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Fusco?
Consent agenda.
This item will be placed on the consent agenda.
Okay, item number 8, offered by Fusco, a resolution approving and confirming the appointments of Mayor Daniel Horrigan, John Moore, Thomas Tatum, Helen Tomic, Councilwoman Veronica Sims, Tara Mosley Samples, Councilman Bob Hope, for the year 2018 as members of the Northeast Ohio 4-County Regional Planning and Development Organization, with alternates Sam DeShazer, Jim Ashley, Michelle DeFiore, Brent Hendren, and Helen Tomic, and declare an emergency.
Councilman Fusco?
Consent agenda.
This item will be placed on the consent agenda.
Okay. Item number 9, offered by Fusco, Sims, and Somerville. Ordinance approving and authorizing the execution of a lease agreement with the Akron Community Service Center and Urban League, or its designee, the Akron Urban League, for the land near Rose and Berry Avenues in order to facilitate the development of an urban farm, finding such property is not needed for any public use, and related findings, and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Fusco?
For the committee's favorable, we ask for, excuse me, suspension of the rules.
Okay, are there any objections? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
Yes, thank you. The Akron Urban League, this is a lease agreement with them for property between the city and them. This would help facilitate a grant that they have received to engage this property in terms of urban farming, to teach folks urban farming, retailing, the produce, and all that goes with that. So with that, we eagerly would like to vote on this evening.
All right.
Favorable.
The rules have been suspended. The committee's report is favorable. All in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it.
Roll call and final passage. Freeman. Fusco. Hope. Kamer. Keith. Kilby. Milkovich. Mosley Samples. Neal. Mobian. Sims. Somerville.
Aye.
Swirsky. Okay. Item number 10, offered by Keith and Fusco. Ordinance authorizing the mayor or his designee to file application and enter into agreements with the Ohio Department of Natural Resources for grant funding to create a new section of the Rubber City Heritage Trail and declaring an emergency.
Councilwoman Keith?
Thank you, Madam President. The committee's report, we would like this to be placed on the consent agenda.
This item will be placed on the consent agenda.
Okay, item number 11, offered by Keith. Ordinance authorizing the mayor to file application and enter into agreement or agreements with the Ohio Department of Natural Resources for funding and/or replace certain air circulation fans located at Cascade Parking Garage and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Keith?
Thank you, Madam President. The committee would like this placed on the consent agenda.
This item will be placed on the consent agenda.
Okay, item number 12, offered by Keith. Ordinance authorize the Director of Public Service or his designee, after publicly advertising for bids, to enter into a contract or contracts for the repair and replacement of air circulation fans located in Cascade Plaza fan room and declare emergency.
Councilwoman Keith?
Thank you, Madam President. The committee would like this also to be placed on the consent agenda.
This item will be placed on the consent agenda.
Okay, item number 13, offered by Keith. Ordinance authorizing the mayor to file applications and enter into an agreement or agreements with the Ohio EPA and the Ohio Water Development Authority for funding through the Water Pollution Control Loan Fund for the repair and/or replacement of certain waterway infrastructure and declare an emergency.
Councilwoman Keith?
Thank you, Madam President. We would like this also to be placed on the consent agenda.
This item will be placed on the consent agenda.
Okay, item number 14, offered by Keith. Ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Service or his designee, after publicly advertising for bids, to enter into a contract or contracts for the repair and replacement of certain portions of the Akron sanitary sewer system and declaring an emergency.
Councilwoman Keith?
Thank you, Madam President. The committee would like this piece to be placed on the consent agenda.
This item will be placed on the consent agenda.
Okay, item 15, last one, offered by Keith. Resolution declaring the necessary to improve Britton Road between the termini of Talmadge Avenue and Independence Avenue by constructing and reconstructing curbs, concrete sidewalk, and declaring an emergency.
Councilwoman Keith?
Thank you, Madam President. The committee would like this item to be placed on the consent agenda.
This item will be placed on the consent agenda.
Item number 16, offered by Mosley Sample. Ordinance authorizing the mayor or his designee to apply for and accept sponsorship funding for the Ohio Environmental Protection Agency to be utilized in the purchase and eventual restoration of certain land adjacent to Lake Rockwell Reservoir. Authorizing the mayor or his designee to enter into an agreement or agreements to carry out the purposes of the sponsorship program, authorizing the expenditure of funds and declaring an emergency.
Councilwoman Samples?
Thank you, Madam President. The committee would like this item placed on the consent agenda.
Okay, this item will be placed on the consent agenda.
Okay. Number 17, offered by Kamer. Ordinance authorizes the Director of Law to enter into a contract with the Summit County Public Defender's Commission to provide legal services for indigent defendants in the Akron Municipal Court in accordance with the requirements of the Constitution of the United States with respect to the provision of legal representation to indigent defendants and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Kamer.
Thank you, Madam President. Committee's report is consent agenda, please.
This item will be placed on the consent agenda.
Okay, this is item number 18. It's a substitute offered as an amendment for the one item that was on the previous consent agenda, offered by Sims. Ordinance approving the project petition for special assessments for special energy improvement projects as amended related to the acquisition, construction, installation, and improvement of certain public improvements in the city of Akron, Ohio, in cooperation with the Akron Energy Improvement District, approving the necessity of that project, determining to proceed with the project, levying special assessments for the purpose of paying the cost of that project, approving a cooperative agreement and the special assessment agreement related to that project, and declaring an emergency.
Councilwoman Sims.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The committee's report is favorable, and we ask for suspension of the rules.
Are there any objections? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So this piece of legislation will allow for the advancement of the cooperative agreement and special assessment agreement for the Akron Energy District, which in turn will provide much needed energy upgrades at the One Cascade Plaza. That I believe, and I'm certain that the city concurs, that will bring about true economic implications like job retention, attracting more businesses to the area. And it's just a good business practice, I think, for those businesses that have been and continue to be committed to staying here in Akron and growing here in Akron.
Thank you. The rules have been suspended, and the committee's report is favorable. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
Roll call and final passage. Freeman. Fusco. Hoke. Kamer. Keith. Kilby. Milkovich. Mosley Samples. Neal. Amobian. Sims.
Aye.
Somerville.
Aye.
Swirsky. Okay, last item. Item number 19, offered by Sims. Ordinance authorizing the mayor or his designee to enter into a grant agreement with Rogers Industrial Products and declaring an emergency.
Councilwoman Sims.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The committee's request is for consent agenda.
This item will be placed on the consent agenda. We will now go to the portion of our meeting we refer to as our public comment period. If you wish to speak to this council during this time, you can approach the podium. We're going to ask that you please sign in and put your full name and your address on the sheet, but please give us your name when you come forward. You will have 3 minutes to speak to this body. Speakers are reminded that this is an official meeting. Remarks should be kept respectful and germane to council business. Speakers should refrain from making personal attacks. Anyone who breaches decorum will be ruled out of order and may be removed from council chambers. Is there anyone here to speak during our public comment period?
Madam Council President and members of the council and members of the city administration, I'm John Beatty, Beaty, 2047 Wyndham Road. I promised last week I was going to talk about the miracle on 15th and Broad Street instead of the miracle on 34th Street, Second Chance Village. Every time I go there, I become more impressed with what's happening there and with the people of that village. But before I speak to that, I just want to say not only how proud I was of my council person, Marilyn Keith, for her Christian
attitude in stepping down to allow more reconciliation among you. But I am so proud of Councilwoman Tara Mosley Samples, who I heard speak to a huge, to use the word of a certain president, march and rally down in downtown Cleveland. She was right on, and I was so impressed. And I'm glad that Dennis Kucinich had the wisdom to choose her to be our next lieutenant governor. I want to share that I stopped by the Second Chance Village. Oh, the other thing I wanted to share before I go is that I handed some of you an invitation to, of course I know you're pretty busy, but if you had a chance, if you didn't get one of these already, if Mr. Freeman, if you would be willing to pass that around the horseshoe. It's an invitation. I'm a gun sense voter, and we're having a vigil, interfaith vigil, for gun victims and survivors, a vigil to support them tomorrow at the church where I attend, sponsored by Embracing Justice and Peace. There's some things that came out of my visits to Second Chance Village. Talking to Sage, I said, Mr. Lewis, how did this happen? And he said, you know, I just didn't say no. I just didn't say no to a homeless person. And by the way, a lot of them ask, don't call them homeless. It has that pejorative sense. They'd rather be called houseless. To this houseless person. And as soon as I said yes, they could stay.
Sorry, sir. Save it for next week.
Next week. Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend Beatty.
Okay.
My name is Steve Nome. I've been here before several times about the retirees' insurance benefits, and that the city intends to push spouses out of insurance coverage. When the city, and I guess first I'd like to say, anyone in the audience that's here about the insurance
Mr. Nome, if you can speak to us, okay?
Okay.
Just direct your comments to us, okay?
Okay. I would like everyone in the audience that's here about the insurance benefits to raise their hand. Okay, I'm sorry, I took me out of place. You know, when the council talked about making it equal, that the retirees and the active employees would pay the same amount for insurance, we had no objection to that. What got slipped in was this requirement to have OPERS coverage for the spouse, which is about $14,000 per spouse. And that's just too expensive. It's not affordable for anyone, and it's not reasonable. Now, council had indicated last year that they were going to review this, and last I heard, it still hasn't been reviewed. When I look at your legislation and stuff, and they declare things an emergency, this is an emergency for all the retirees and their spouses, that we suddenly get hit with a $14,000 extra cost that just isn't in our budget. There has to be a way to make this work. So I guess, yeah, I'd like to, you know, I can't do it legally, declare this an emergency, put a stop on the requirement that OPERS, that the spouses have to have OPERS insurance to qualify for city insurance. The city can't tell me how much it costs for spouses to be, how much it costs the city for the spouses to have this insurance. How can you say, we're going to wipe out the spouses when you don't know how much money you're going to save? That just doesn't make sense to me. You need to know how much are you saving, how much do the spouses cost, what is a reasonable amount? Should the retirees and spouses pay a higher monthly cost? Maybe so, I don't know. But somebody, the city has to figure this out. I just feel when I ask questions, I got put off for a month or so. We talk about transparency in government. I feel like it's not being transparent, that they're not being straight up with me, and they're not giving me answers, and that this is something should be, say, this is why we did it, this is how much it costs. And when they can't tell me how much this stuff costs, then how can they say, well, we don't know how much it's going to cost, but we decided to put this burden on the spouses.
Mr. Nove, your time.
I hear you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Knoll.
Good evening, council members. My name is Beth Knorr. I'm the director of Summit Food Coalition, and I'm largely here just to introduce myself. Back in 2012, Summit Food Coalition presented a local food charter to the council, and we're very grateful that it was a resolution that was adopted by the council members. And what that resolution basically said was that we believe here in the city of Akron in everyone's right to good, nutritious food, to the right to grow it, and for supporting economic opportunities for farmers and local food businesses that will stimulate our local economy and make for a better life through food here in the city of Akron. And so I'm just here to say hi, thank you for passing that resolution in 2012. And as we look at our agenda for 2018, there will be a lot of opportunities for partnership with council members in the city of Akron, and we're looking forward to some positive relationships going forward. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mrs. Knorr.
Hello, my name is Frank Williams, W-I-L-L-I-A-M-S. I'm here before council to voice my concerns on the increased health and care costs for City of Akron retirees and spouses under the age of 65. I retired from the City of Akron Purchasing Department after 30-plus years of service. During my many years of service, I, along with other employees, agreed to less wages in exchange to keep our health care coverage. I made a decision to retire based on our living expenses and my pension benefits, also considering the City of Akron would continue reasonable health care costs for my wife. My cost last year for health care was $118 a month for myself under the OPERS plan and $60 monthly for my wife's primary and my secondary coverage through the City of Akron. Last year we were informed that the city would no longer cover spouses and to look at other health care options. The city later agreed to cover spouses with secondary coverage for the $60 monthly family cost only if they enrolled in the OPERS plan for primary insurance. Today our health insurance cost through OPERS has increased to $216 a month for myself and $1,160 monthly for my wife, in addition to the $60 a month through the City of Akron to keep them as a secondary coverage for us. Our yearly cost has changed from 2017's cost of $2,136 to 2018's cost of $17,226. We will also incur higher deductibles and larger co-payment amounts. This cost increase has had a huge impact on my monthly pension income. These changes not only affect myself and my wife, but a number of other dedicated City of Akron retirees that over the course of their careers agreed to smaller wages and decreased benefits to maintain health care for themselves, spouses, and families. With upcoming changes to retirees' COLA decreases and a new exorbitant health care costs for spouses, these changes have created a hardship for many of us living on modest retirement incomes. In closing, I'm asking the mayor and city council to review this matter and consider helping retirees with spouses on their Medicare age with more responsible and affordable health care costs. And thank you. I have a copy of an example of my pension. Can I present this to?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Williams.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Teresa Soroka, S-R-O-K-A, and I'm the wife of Dale Soroka. He worked for the city for 34 years. He has been retired for 8 years. I'm very proud of everything he accomplished as an employee for the city of Akron. And I would also like to say, when you state that you're declaring an emergency, that there was an emergency declared in our house when the benefits were changed for the families of retirees. I would ask that some structure be considered so that retirees could be grandfathered in. There could be maybe 5 years of retirement. They keep the benefits, as when OPERS structured their changes, they did it 5 years, then they allowed another year or so of coverage for spouses before. So there would be some step down, there might be some consideration for a grandfather period, so that employees that have been retired for 8 years, there is no option for them to decide not to retire because they don't have the money to have their spouse or their 2 children, of which we have coverage for. We have no recourse to decide and make decisions. We made decisions based on, best information that we had. I want to know that I'm reasonable. I understand things cost money, but that if you could consider a grandfather period, also a continuing coverage for a period of time to allow families make decisions on how they're going to impact it, but to have a month or 2 of time, it's not reasonable that we are able to recover from what is being taken away. So I would like you to consider that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Soroka.
Good evening, Madam President and council members. I was surprised to read in the Akron Beacon Journal.
Can you please state your name?
Buck,
Thank
last
you.
name B-U-C-K, sorry. I was surprised to read in the Akron Beacon Journal that it only took 3 weeks into 2018 before the administration reappropriated the tax increase. We are now spending 20% of the 0.25 income tax increase for payroll, and that was never mentioned. This promise was for equipment, cars, trucks, streets, new fire stations, protection from hazardous waste and carcinogens, etc. These things are desperately needed for our fire and police safety. Everything that made Issue 4 look good to the voter. But because of an unseen income tax revenue shortage, the city is forced to do this, and with a promise of, I can't promise we won't have to do this again. How can the budget director miss a forecast by 4% and not see this coming? I would say the city needs a new finance director if this is his or her best. This is not like it happened overnight. The budget shortage should have been seen, and probably was last year, but then the administration would have had to say, we may need this increase for payroll. I wonder how many of the 70% of the voter support would have voted for the tax increase knowing this. All of this was on top of an increase in staffing of 7.5 positions in the current administration office and a payroll increase of 53% total cost for labor and benefits since this administration took office. I forgot to mention the immediate raise given to all cabinet members, every city employee, against the wishes of many of the city council members. In the last month, in the Akron Beacon Journal, we have read about the retirees having to pay for spouses and families. Maybe if the city didn't pay accumulated sick time when someone retires or downsizes, the city wouldn't need to take our new tax increase to meet payroll responsibilities. I have been employed by unions for 17 years and private companies for 28.
In not one of these positions did I get a paid sick day, let alone accumulated unused sick pay totaling hundreds of thousands of dollars that this costs our city. For instance, the mayor had to let 3 people go with savings of $429,000 in payroll savings, but only $250,000 savings in the first year. This is a cost of over $170,000 to our city. Why? Because of accumulated sick time. Why does the city continue to pay accumulated sick time of up to a year when we can't afford to meet payroll costs? The only employees I know who get this extreme benefit are those paid out of the taxpayer's pocket. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Buck. Is there anyone else wishing to speak during the public comment period? If not, we will close the public comment period and go into our committee meetings. Planning, Councilman Fusco. Public Safety, Councilman Kamer. Health and Social Services, Councilman Amobian. Rules, Councilwoman Keith.
2:30.
Public Service, Councilwoman Keith.
2 o'clock.
Parks and Rec, Councilman Neal. Economic Development, Councilwoman Sims. Budget and Finance, Councilman Freeman. Public Service, Councilwoman Samples. Housing, Councilman Kilby.
Where'd you go?
Mosley, okay. Green Committee, Councilman Swirsky. Okay. Is there anything else coming for council?
Motion to adjourn.
Is there a second? All in favor signify by saying aye.